It's really hard to name a group because you spend a lot of time agonizing about what works, how do you distinguish yourselves amongst this entire realm of musicians out there. So I think they came up with something that really sparks that interest.
Hello, my name is Alan Solomon, and it is my pleasure as Dean of the Crane School of Music at SUNY Potsdam to welcome you to this performance by the Pearl Mox Saxophone Quartet. The Crane School of Music was founded in 1886 by Julia Crane, who believed that teaching music to children was among the noblest of professions. The Crane School of Music offered one of the very first music education programs and remains the largest music education program in the United States. With over 600 students and 70 faculty members, Crane also offers majors in performance and music business, among others. The Pearl Mox Saxophone Quartet is comprised of Nicholas Soule, Patrick Murphy, Kevin Dimmel, and Brian Bricko, all students of Crane faculty member Dr. Timothy McAllister. We hope that you enjoy this performance by these very talented students of the Crane School of Music.
For the broadcast, we thought it would be a great opportunity for me to work with them in a situation that normally doesn't occur with a saxophone quartet, in that you add an additional performer to the group. There are two pieces we'll be playing in which there is the addition of a soloist. So the first piece we will perform is a concerto, actually, for a soprano saxophone. But the accompaniment, as opposed to being an orchestra or a band, the accompaniment is a saxophone quartet. So it gave us a great opportunity for the five of us to collaborate. To work with my students is a great privilege.
We were a freshman class that all started out together, and our teacher all put us in a group together. And we've been playing together ever since. We get along great. We're all really close friends. We actually, the four of us lived together last year, all in one house.
Our first rehearsal, we were in a practice room in Crane, and we were all sitting there. We didn't really know each other because it was the first or second week of classes, and we kind of just all sat down and started to play the music that we had in front of us. And I don't remember, it wasn't great, but, you know, and then we heard a knock on the door. Dr. McAllister came in and just started working with us and kind of working with intonation and working with articulation, and it just kind of built from there. And we strive for excellence, I think, because of him, because most other teachers will kind of say, okay, that's good enough, you know, it sounds pretty good, but not with him. It's kind of, it's perfect or it's nothing.
I brought them together when they were freshmen. Basically, in my studio, in my program, all of my students will perform in saxophone quartets. It's actually a very standard combination for our instrument. It's the main chamber music outlet for the saxophone. So there are string quartets, brass quintets, woodwind quintets, and saxophone quartets. And really, in all honesty, the saxophone quartet has become one of the leading ensembles in chamber music. It's doing quite well. There are more composers writing for the saxophone and the saxophone quartet than any other instrument right now. So it's a very exciting genre. So it becomes very central to my studio instruction that my students all play in a saxophone quartet. So these were four gentlemen that had very similar degrees of ability. They all came in with the same type of attitude. It always works out great when you have four freshmen. And basically, I think that year the class started with four freshmen. There might have been one or two others. Generally, I have a freshman class every year ranging from 4 to 6 players. So they were just the most logical choice to group together. And immediately from day one, their rehearsals started to show the type of spark and energy that I knew would take them the full 4 years. I mean, I knew that they would stick it out. I just could feel it with this group, putting them in the position that they are now in, competing in competitions, performing repertoire to a very high level, representing the school, sort of serving as an ambassador for the Crane School when they go out and perform. I kind of saw that coming in many ways. It just had a lot to do with their talents and their individual gifts. This quartet has been the model for all of the rest of my students, and for future generations of students. This is the group they'll be talking about. This is the group that everyone will be holding themselves to, the level, the standard. You have to have that in your program to succeed. You have to have role models for the other students.
There's a strong bond between each of us, and I think all of us are so close as friends that we all have the ability to really work together and to really connect with one another musically, and we can just get things done, and we play great. We have an intensity level, that's amazing, and we just work great together.
The saxophones range in size from the smallest is the sopranino and the largest is the contrabass. In the saxophone quartet, there's the soprano saxophone, the alto saxophone, the tenor saxophone, and the bari saxophone, each one getting successively larger.
The Northern New York role in the history of the saxophone is quite interesting. It's quite unique. A gentleman by the name of Merle Johnston was born and raised in Watertown, New York. I believe he was born in 1878. He grew up playing a lot of music. He played violin and piano. He took voice lessons. But he gravitated to woodwind doubling, and he gravitated to being a saxophone player specifically. He attended Clarkson University in Potsdam as an engineering major, but he was very active in the early days of the Crane Music School, which I believe at that time was called the Crane Normal School. He eventually decided that he wanted music to be his career, and he went to New York City in the early 1920s. And then it was there that he set up a studio of instruction. He was also very active in the music scene there. He was active in the studio orchestra recording industry. He was heavily recorded player, and he eventually took on a student named Larry Teal. Larry Teal was a woodwind doubler in Detroit, and he performed on clarinet, flute, and saxophone. He performed with the Detroit Symphony Orchestra on many occasions. And eventually, in 1950, Larry Teal was the first endowed professorship of saxophone appointed to any American university. The University of Michigan in 1950 was the first state university of any type to have a full-line tenure-track position in saxophone. So Larry Teal became the first professor of saxophone anywhere in the United States. His most famous pupil is Donald Cinta, who succeeded him at the University of Michigan. Donald Cinta has been there since Larry Teal's retirement in 1974. Donald Cinta was my teacher. And Donald Cinta was the saxophonist who had the most immediate impact on my life and my career. When I was in 8th grade, I heard recordings of this man. And I heard him playing music that I later played, or music that I was preparing for the state solo and ensemble festival contests. And I knew that this was the man that I had to meet, I had to study. I needed to learn from this man. So he had, of course, an amazing impact on my life. All of my degrees in music come from the University of Michigan. And then upon completion of the University of Michigan, I landed the job at State University of New York at Potsdam Crane School. And the Crane School has always had a wonderful tradition. The Crane School itself has played an important part in the history of the saxophone, because it was one of the earlier schools to follow suit after Michigan to institute a professorship in saxophone. So the gentleman that hired me was the former dean, Dr. James Stolte, and he he took great pride in feeling, or he took great pride in hiring me out of Michigan, as he recalled, and as he would say to me many times, that the Potsdam Circle had been complete, that the lineage went Merle Johnston, Larry Teal, Donald Cinta, Tim McAllister, and then basically we're back to where we started.
We won first place in the MTNA New York State Chamber Music Competition.
That performance, we played great. It was amazing. We did everything we wanted to do. The music was intense. Everything just really fell together. We rehearsed a lot for it, and we sounded great on that day.
That had definitely had to have been one of our best performances. The intensity level was there. We were very well prepared. We just played great, and it was a great feeling. We just knew we'd done really well.
Well, there are so many examples of them performing at a high level. There were so many performances that I would say there was one moment in that performance that was really special, that they played really, really well. They've always, for every performance, they've shown a wonderful demeanor and a wonderful professionalism. I remember when I got the phone call that they won the New York State MTNA Collegiate Chamber Music Competition. When I got that phone call that they'd won, I was very proud, of course. And even when they got second prize at the MTNA Regional, which is 13 Northeast states, which is the most competitive MTNA Collegiate Regional in the country, when they got second prize there, I was equally as proud.